conference room smells like burnt coffee and cheap cologne. 40 faces are turned toward the projector until my manager, Derek Holt, pauses the meeting and turns toward me like he's been waiting for this moment all week. He says my name with that fake polite voice that makes my skin crawl. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Look me in the eye, Claire. You're done here." A few people gasp. Someone laughs nervously like they think it's a joke. My cheeks go hot, but I don't beg. I don't argue. I don't cry. I just reach for my bag, slow and steady, because my hands are the only part of me I can control right now. Derek smirks, enjoying the silence that's fallen over the room. "Security will escort you out." I stand. The chair legs screech against the floor, and the sound echoes in the sudden quiet. As I turn, I catch my coworker Maya staring at Derek like she just watched him kick a puppy in church. I walk out with my bag on my shoulder, hearing whispers behind me. She must have stolen something. She must have messed up badly. She must have deserved it. The hallway feels too bright. My vision tunnels. And right before the door closes behind me, Derek adds the line that flips my stomach into ice. "Don't make this hard." I keep walking anyway, because the truth is, Derek didn't fire me for what I did. He fired me for what I knew. And I didn't realize it yet, but someone had already slipped something into my bag. In my car, my hands shake so hard I can barely turn the key in the ignition. I sit there for a moment, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of what just happened. That's when I open my bag and find a plain envelope I definitely didn't put there. No name on it, just a sticky note pressed to the front. "Don't go back inside. Read this first." My heart pounds as I tear it open. Inside are copies of emails, a handwritten timeline in someone's careful script, and one line highlighted in bright yellow, "Make Claire the fall guy." My throat tightens. I look up at the building like it might be watching me through those dark windows. Then my phone buzzes in my lap, making me jump. Unknown number. The text message says, "If you react the way he wants, you lose. If you stay calm, you win. Don't trust HR." I stare at the words until they blur. Someone inside the company is trying to help me. Someone who knows what Derek's planning. But they're too scared to show their face or even sign their name. I put the envelope in my glove box and lock it with shaking fingers. My hands are still trembling, but something else is happening too. Something cold and sharp is forming in my chest. Not anger exactly. Focus. I don't know who sent this. I don't know what Derek did yet. But I know one thing now. This wasn't random. This was planned. And if Derek planned it carefully enough to need a fall guy, that means he left evidence somewhere. 6 months earlier, everything was different. I was the reliable one. The yes person everyone could count on. I took late calls from panicked clients, fixed broken relationships, and covered for coworkers with kids who needed to leave early. I wasn't flashy or loud, but I was the one who kept things from collapsing when nobody was watching. Then Derek got promoted to manager. First week, he smiled warmly and said, "I like strong women who know their worth." Second week, he started calling me emotional every time I asked simple clarifying questions in meetings. Third week, he made me train a new hire I didn't ask for and hadn't approved. Tiffany. She was his friend's daughter, fresh out of college. Pretty, loud, confident, and completely unqualified for the position. Derek leaned in close after her first training session and said softly, "Be a team player, Claire. Don't make this weird for everyone." I didn't know what he meant then. I do now. I see it clearly. Tiffany didn't take notes during training. She interrupted clients on calls. She missed basic deadlines, but Derek kept smiling at her like she was doing brilliantly, like she was exactly what the team needed. And every time I tried to quietly fix her mistakes before they reached clients, Derek would wave me off. "Let her learn," he'd say. "She needs room to grow." So I did. I stepped back. I let her fail naturally. That's when Derek quietly reassigned my biggest account, the one I'd built from nothing over 2 years, and gave it to Tiffany without even telling me first. My best client, the one I'd nurtured from a small contract into our largest account, suddenly stopped responding to my emails. I found out why when the client finally sent a brief message, "We're continuing with Tiffany as our main contact, as requested by your team." Requested by who? Nobody asked me. Nobody told me anything. I walked into Derek's office, my printed emails in hand, ready to ask what happened. He kept typing like I was invisible, like I was a fly buzzing near his expensive monitor. Finally, he glanced up. "It's called growth, Claire," he said with a condescending smile. "You should be proud. You trained her well enough that she can handle the big accounts now." Then he added, casual and cruel, "You're great at the boring operational parts anyway. The behind-the-scenes stuff, that's your strength." The boring parts, like the actual work that kept clients happy and coming back. I left his office feeling small and confused. Not angry yet, just lost. I'd done everything right. I'd followed every rule. I'd been reliable and excellent and dedicated, and it didn't matter at all. That evening, I got a calendar invite that made my stomach drop. Performance improvement conversation, mandatory, scheduled for the following week with Derek in HR. I stared at it for 10 full minutes, reading it over and over. Performance improvement? I'd never been written up before. Never been late. Never missed a single deadline in 3 years. I clicked accept because I didn't know what else to do, what else I could do. But something in my stomach already knew the truth. This wasn't about improvement. This was about something darker. HR was there in the small windowless room. Derek was there, looking calm and prepared. A printed list of concerns was there too, most of them vague and subjective, some of them flat out false. Derek slid one page across the table toward me like a judge handing down a sentence. "Your attitude has been becoming increasingly disruptive to team morale," he said in that professional voice. I was genuinely confused until I saw it. A formal complaint from Tiffany. About me, about my behavior toward her. It was written like I was a bully, like I was unstable and threatened, like I was jealous of young talent and fresh perspectives. The HR representative, a woman I'd never met before, asked carefully, "Do you want to respond to these concerns, Claire?" And Derek watched me with those cold eyes like he was hoping, praying I'd explode. Like he wanted me to yell or cry or prove every word in that complaint right. I didn't give him the satisfaction. I kept my voice steady and quiet. "I'd like everything documented in writing, please. All of this." Derek's eyes narrowed slightly. That was the moment I became a real problem to him instead of just an obstacle. After the meeting ended, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes. I read the complaint 3 times, studying every sentence. None of it was true, but it was detailed and specific, like someone had coached Tiffany carefully on exactly what to say and how to phrase it. Later that same day, I walked past Derek's office and heard him on the phone. The door was slightly cracked open. He said clearly, "She's not taking the bait yet." Maya from the finance department invited me for lunch the next day at a quiet restaurant off-site. She kept her voice low and kept glancing around like she was worried someone might overhear. "I shouldn't tell you this," she said, leaning forward. "But Derek's been moving numbers around in reports. Not stealing exactly. Not like that. More like hiding how bad things really are in his department." She slid her phone across the table carefully, showing me an email chain where Derek pressured her to approve expense categorizations without proper supporting documentation. "I said no," she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "I refused to sign off. Now he started coming for me too, asking questions about my work, copying my boss on tiny mistakes." My stomach twisted painfully. Derek wasn't just petty and insecure. He was desperate to hide something bigger. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, studying her frightened face. Maya looked at me with exhausted, scared eyes. "Because you're next in line, Claire. He's setting you up for something. And if we don't help each other, if we don't stand together, he wins. He always wins." She pulled her phone back quickly and deleted the screenshot like it burned her fingers. Then she said the words that changed everything for me. "He's been building a scapegoat, someone to blame when everything falls apart." I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the complaint, the performance meeting, the way Derek smiled when I walked out of that room. He wasn't just trying to fire me. He was setting me up to take the fall for something much bigger than a personality conflict. A critical file vanished from our shared network drive the next week. Derek made a theatrical show of it in front of the entire team during our morning meeting. "Claire, you had full access to that folder, right?" People turned to look at me. The air in the room shifted uncomfortably. I said calmly, meeting his eyes, "Everyone on the team had access to it." Derek laughed like I was being cute or naive. Sure, technically. But you're the one who touched it last according to the access logs. That night, I went home and searched my memory like it was a crime scene I was investigating. Then I checked my detailed work notes and realized something important. The missing file wasn't actually missing at all. It had been moved to a different folder structure, and the activity log showed clearly that the last person to move it wasn't me. I requested the complete unedited log through the system admin portal I still had access to as a senior team member. The full entry loaded on my screen. The name was Tiffany Morrison. My hands went cold. Derek didn't just let her frame me carelessly. He had arranged it, orchestrated it carefully. This was planned. I forwarded the original, unedited activity log to my personal email with a note to myself, "Do not lose this evidence." Then I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. My apartment door clicking softly. Someone was inside my home. I stood frozen in my kitchen, whispering hoarsely, "Hello? Who's there?" A soft, familiar voice answered quickly, "Don't panic, Claire. It's me. It's Maya." She appeared in my doorway looking absolutely terrified, her face pale. "I shouldn't be here," she said, words tumbling out fast. "But Derek found out. I talked to you at lunch. Someone must have seen us. He called me into his office and asked me to sign something official." She handed me a printed document with shaking hands. It was a formal statement claiming I had pressured her repeatedly to change financial numbers and reports and had become aggressive when she refused. "It's a complete lie," she said, voice breaking with emotion. "Every word. He said if I don't sign it by tomorrow, he'll ruin my career here. He'll make sure I never work in finance again." I felt my anger transform into something sharper and colder. Pure focus. I didn't tell Maya what to do. I didn't pressure her either direction. I told her what was true. "You can refuse to sign it, Maya, and you can write your own statement instead, telling the truth about what actually happened." Maya exhaled like she'd been holding her breath underwater for minutes. "There's something else," she said quietly. "He scheduled a big team meeting for Monday morning. Your name is highlighted on the agenda document. I saw it on his desk." After she left through my back door, I sat on my couch in the complete darkness. I wasn't scared anymore. I was tired of being pushed around, tired of being made small. Derek wanted a fight? Fine. But I wasn't going to fight dirty like him. I was going to fight smart and legal. I started documenting absolutely everything in a detailed timeline. Dates, witnesses, exact words spoken, not for revenge, for protection and truth. I also updated my resume quietly, contacted a former mentor I trusted, and applied to 2 positions at other companies in the industry. At work, Derek suddenly started complimenting me publicly. "Too late, too sweet, too obvious. See everyone?" he'd say loudly. "Claire and I are good. We work great together." It was pure performance art, and the audience was HR, watching to see if I was really the problem. But I smiled back pleasantly. I said, "Thank you, Derek." I played along with the game. Because I knew something Derek didn't realize. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was building an exit strategy. 2 days later, I received an interview request from a competitor company that Derek actively hated. The director wanted to meet me next week to discuss opportunities. I accepted immediately. That night, I practiced my interview answers in the bathroom mirror. I kept my voice steady and professional. I kept my hands still and controlled, because if Derek thought he could break me quietly and make me disappear, he was completely wrong. I wasn't breaking apart. I was building a way out, brick by careful brick. And when I left, it would be on my terms, not his. The interview was respectful and professional. They asked thoughtful questions about my actual work and accomplishments. They listened when I talked. When I explained my approach to client relationships, nobody interrupted or dismissed me. At the end, the director said something that stuck with me. "We've heard excellent things about you from people in the industry. Honestly, we're surprised you're still at your current company." That stung a little. It also told me something crucial. Derek had been talking about me outside the building to other people. Someone had been quietly poisoning the well, spreading rumors. On the way out, the receptionist leaned in and said quietly, "Just so you know, someone named Derek called here last week asking questions about you." My stomach dropped hard. Derek wasn't just trying to fire me. He was actively trying to make sure I couldn't leave and find something better. Back at work, Derek announced a sudden, departmental restructure. My responsibilities tripled overnight while my actual authority shrank to nothing. He gave Tiffany all my client-facing meetings and made me do the boring cleanup work behind the scenes. He kept asking me pointed questions in front of other people, questions carefully designed to humiliate and confuse. "Claire, can you explain to everyone why the numbers look like that in your report?" He smiled like a shark smelling blood in the water. I answered calmly, with receipts and documentation ready. And for the first time, I saw someone in the room look at Derek with an expression that said, "Why are you doing this to her?" Derek sent me a meeting invite that made my heart sink. Confidential discussion, HR plus legal present. They sat me down in a cold conference room and slid a printed email across the table toward me. It was supposedly from my email address to a client. Rude, unprofessional, borderline threatening in tone. My stomach dropped completely because for a split second, I genuinely wondered if I was losing my mind. Had I sent that? Then I looked closer at the details. The signature line formatting was wrong. The spacing between paragraphs was wrong. And the client's company name was misspelled in a way I would absolutely never do. I said quietly but firmly, "This isn't mine. I didn't write this." Derek leaned back in his chair, looking smug and satisfied. "Are you seriously accusing someone of forgery?" The HR representative's eyes flickered with something. She didn't like that word being used. I looked directly at her and said calmly, "I'm requesting the complete email headers and metadata to verify where this actually came from." Derek's confident smile slipped noticeably. "That's not necessary," he said quickly, too quickly. "We're just trying to understand." "It is necessary if you're accusing me of sending it," I interrupted. "I have the right to see proof." HR paused, looking between us. Then she said carefully, "We'll have IT pull the complete logs and review." Derek stood up abruptly like the meeting was finished. But it wasn't finished. Something fundamental had shifted in the room. HR had seen the crack in his story. They saw it clearly. IT pulled the complete email logs and metadata. The results were clear. The email didn't come from my computer or device. It came from a shared workstation in the training room during the exact time I was in a documented meeting with 3 witnesses. Derek tried to shrug it off casually. "Okay, so maybe it was a technical mistake or glitch." A technical mistake doesn't forge someone's name and send threatening emails to clients. HR postponed the disciplinary action indefinitely. Derek was visibly furious, his jaw tight. That afternoon, he cornered me by the copy machine when no one else was around and hissed, "You're not as smart as you think you are, Claire." I looked at him steadily and said, "I'm just careful and thorough." And I watched something flash across his face that I'd never seen before. Real fear. That night, Maya texted me, "Be careful. He's telling people you're dangerous and unstable." The whispers spread through the office like poison. People stopped making eye contact with me in the hallways. Meetings went awkwardly quiet when I entered the room. A coworker I thought genuinely liked me said awkwardly, "Hey, I heard you're going through something difficult." Derek had successfully turned my calm professionalism into unstable, my reasonable boundaries into threatening behavior. I went home that night and cried for the first time in months. Not because I was weak, but because it was desperately lonely being the only person telling the truth in a room full of cowards who looked away. But the next morning, I got up and went back anyway. I walked in the next morning and found my desk completely cleared. My family photo was gone, my personal notebook was gone, my coffee mug and sticky notes were gone. A cardboard box sat where my work life used to exist. Derek strolled casually by with Tiffany at his side and said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Sometimes it's better if we simplify things for everyone." Tiffany smiled like she'd won some prize she didn't earn or deserve. I picked up the box without saying a single word. My hands were steady, but inside my chest something hardened into steel. They wanted me humiliated? Fine. I could be humiliated on my way to the truth. Inside the box, underneath my belongings, I found a printed document I had never written with my name typed at the top. It was an admission statement, claiming I had mishandled a critical client file and knowingly violated company policy. A blank signature line waited at the bottom. My hands shook as I held it. Not from fear now, but from pure anger. I scanned the document carefully. The language was generic and template-like, as if Derek had used it before on other people. Then I noticed something worse. The policy number cited in the document was from 2019. It was outdated and had been replaced. Whoever wrote this hadn't even bothered checking the current employee handbook. That kind of arrogance leaves fingerprints everywhere. I made a decision that night. I was going to file a formal complaint. Retaliation, harassment, falsified documentation. No drama, no emotion, just facts and supporting attachments. HR responded the next morning with a polite, chilly email. We take these matters seriously and will review. Derek's response was not polite at all. He immediately called a mandatory team meeting, and he deliberately scheduled it in the main conference room where he could make a public spectacle, where everyone could watch me shrink. He wanted to end this publicly and decisively. Maya called me, her voice barely a whisper. Claire, I'm so sorry. He's planning to fire you in front of everyone tomorrow. I already knew, because that's exactly what bullies do when they're cornered and desperate. They perform for an audience. That night, Maya met me after work at a coffee shop far from the office. She was visibly trembling as she showed me an internal report. Financial projections Derek had been deliberately hiding from upper management. The department was actively failing. Contracts were slipping away. Client refunds were rising steadily. Derek had been masking the losses by reclassifying issues and delaying disclosures to leadership. Technically within his discretion, but ethically completely rotten. He desperately needed a scapegoat to take the fall when the truth eventually hit the surface. And my formal complaint was a direct threat because it created an official paper trail showing Derek had targeted the person closest to the operational problems. I didn't plot to take him down dramatically. I didn't hack anything. I didn't leak confidential information. I did the right thing the right way. I carefully organized all my evidence, requested everything in writing, and formally notified HR that I would be bringing a witness representative to any future disciplinary meetings. I also quietly accepted the conditional job offer from the competitor company, pending reference checks. Then I realized Derek was a serious reference risk who would sabotage me. So I asked my former mentor and 2 long-term clients for written references immediately, while I still could. They sent them within hours. Warm, specific, powerful testimonials. Somehow Derek found out about the competitor's job offer. I don't know how, but he did. He called me into his office and pretended to be concerned about my well-being. Claire, he said softly with fake sympathy, people are genuinely worried about you. Then he slid a separation agreement across his desk. Sign quietly. Leave quietly. Drop the complaint. No investigation. He leaned forward with that predator smile. We can make this easy for everyone. I looked at the papers and realized something profound. He was scared, and scared people make reckless mistakes. I said simply, I'm not signing anything today, Derek. His face tightened with barely controlled rage. Then you're choosing the hard way. The next morning, my security access badge stopped working at the building entrance. I stood at the door swiping it over and over like an idiot, while people walked past me with their eyes down. Security finally came. Your access has been revoked. Please wait in the lobby. I waited for 2 full hours. No one came to explain. No one acknowledged me. Finally, I left and drove home. That afternoon, Derek scheduled the team meeting. The one from Chapter 1. The one where he would fire me theatrically in front of everyone. I got the calendar invite at 3 p.m. Meeting time, 9 a.m. the next day. Subject, team alignment. I didn't sleep that night. I carefully packed my bag. I wrote down every fact I knew. I saved every email, every log, every piece of documentation to 3 different locations. And I made a final decision. If Derek wanted a performance, I'd give him one. I'd walk out with my head high, because the truth doesn't need a dramatic script. It just needs witnesses. And Derek had just created 40 of them. Which brings us back to the conference room. Derek's voice, the gasps, the long walk out. But in my bag, along with the mysterious envelope, there was one more thing I didn't see at first. A small folded note from Maya tucked into the side pocket. The meeting is being recorded, not by you, by the company. My breath caught. If Derek fired me publicly while saying, Don't make this hard, and the company recorded it. Then Derek didn't just humiliate me. He had created permanent evidence against himself. 2 hours after I left the building, I got a call from HR. We need you to come back in immediately. I drove back with steady hands this time. They sat me in a small private room. No Derek. No Tiffany. Just HR and someone from legal I'd never seen before. And they played the recording. Derek's voice filled the quiet room. You're done here. Don't make this hard. Then another clip. Derek in the hallway afterward, angry, saying something he thought no one was recording. She was getting too close to everything. I needed her gone now. Heavy silence. HR asked carefully, do you have anything you'd like to share with us? I slid the complete activity log across the table, the forged email metadata, the intimidation template document, the written references. My detailed complaint timeline. Not dramatic, not messy, just undeniable proof. For the first time, HR said the words I desperately needed. We are opening a formal investigation into Derek Holt's conduct. They paused meaningfully, and Tiffany Morrison, and anyone who assisted. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just nodded once. We'll be in touch soon, they said. I walked out of that building and sat in my car for a long time. The sun was setting orange and pink. The parking lot was nearly empty. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe deeply. Derek called me that night from a blocked private number. His voice was nothing like the confident bully from the conference room. Claire, listen. We can fix this situation. I could hear the panic behind his attempted calm, like someone trying desperately to hold a door shut while a storm kicked it in. He tried guilt first. You don't want to ruin people's lives over a misunderstanding. He tried charm next. We had a communication breakdown. That's all this is. Then, because he was fundamentally Derek, he tried threats. You know how this works. HR protects the company, not individuals. And I finally got to say the truth out loud. I am protecting the company from you. There was a long, heavy pause. Then he whispered, please, Claire. Not because he was sorry, because he was cornered and desperate. I hung up without saying goodbye. The next day, I heard from a friend still working there. Executives were on site, full audit, formal interviews. Derek's office door stayed closed for hours. By late afternoon, he walked out holding a cardboard box, eyes red, face gray, while people pretended not to stare. And Tiffany? She was sobbing in the lobby, saying to anyone who'd listen, I didn't know it would go this far. But she did know. She just didn't think consequences were real for people like her. That evening, HR sent me an email. We would like to discuss reinstatement options and restitution. I met with HR and legal 2 days later. They offered my old job back, quietly, like they could somehow rewind what happened. I said calmly, no thank you. I didn't want to return to a place where humiliation had been an acceptable management style. Instead, I negotiated, legally, cleanly, confidently, a neutral reference confirmation letter, financial compensation for the public dismissal and retaliatory actions, complete removal of all false documentation from my permanent record, a written acknowledgement that the termination was not performance-related. Then I did something that made my hands tremble, not from fear, but from pure relief. I accepted the competitor's job offer. Better pay, better culture. A leader who didn't confuse cruelty with strength. On my last official day of notice, by my choice, I walked into the building to collect my final personal items. People looked at me differently now, with something like respect. Maya met me by the elevator, eyes glossy with emotion. You did it the right way, she whispered. I squeezed her hand. So will you someday? As I left, I passed the conference room where Derek had once tried to break me publicly. The room was empty. The chairs were neatly arranged. The projector was off. And for the first time in months, my chest felt light and free. Because I didn't win by screaming. I won by refusing to become the villain he desperately wanted. 3 months later, I heard through connections that Derek took a job in another city. Much smaller company, smaller title. No one reported to him directly. Tiffany went back to school. I don't know if she learned anything real. Maya stayed at the company. She got promoted within 6 months. She emails me sometimes. We meet for coffee and talk about normal things. And me? I wake up and go to work without my stomach hurting. I speak in meetings and people actually listen. I make mistakes, and no one calls me emotional or unstable. I'm just Claire, doing good work, being treated like a person. The competitor turned out to be the right choice. My boss here asks questions, not to trap me, but because she actually wants to know the answers. When I told her the story once, she said simply, "I'm glad you're here." That's it, no drama, just respect. I don't think about Derek often anymore, but when I do, I don't feel burning anger. I feel something quieter. Pity, maybe. Or just distance. Because Derek didn't lose because I destroyed him. He lost because he destroyed himself. Every lie, every setup, every smirk, it all left a trail. And when the truth finally had room to breathe, it didn't need me to defend it. It defended itself. I learned something crucial in those months. You don't win by being louder. You win by being accurate. You don't win by revenge. You win by building something better while they're busy tearing you down. And you don't win by making someone pay. You win by walking away when they can't follow. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not fighting harder, not making a bigger scene, not getting him back more dramatically, and I say no. Because the biggest victory wasn't Derek getting fired. It was me getting free. Free from a job that made me small. Free from a boss who confused power with cruelty. Free from the version of myself that thought staying quiet meant staying safe. I didn't just survive Derek, I outlasted him. And now, when I walk into a conference room, I don't flinch. I don't brace for impact. I don't scan for danger. I just sit down and do my work. That's the win. Sometimes I see my old coworkers around town or at industry events. Most of them look away, embarrassed. A few apologize quietly. I don't need their apologies anymore. I needed them then when it mattered. But I've learned something. People who stay silent when someone's being hurt don't suddenly become brave later. They just become people who have to live with what they didn't do. That's their burden, not mine. My new team doesn't know the full story. They know I came from a difficult situation, but they don't ask for details. They judge me on what I do now, not what was done to me then. That's exactly how it should be. I got a LinkedIn message last month from someone at my old company. Someone I barely knew. "Thank you," it said. "After what happened with Derek, they changed policies. They take complaints seriously now. You made it safer for the rest of us." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because that's the thing about doing the right thing the right way. Sometimes you don't see the impact. Sometimes you just plant seeds and walk away. Derek taught me what I didn't want to be. He taught me that power without integrity is just bullying with a title. He taught me that silence protects abusers, not victims. And he taught me that the system only works when someone's brave enough to use it correctly. I was that someone. Not because I was special, but because I was tired of being small. The envelope in my bag that day, the one from the anonymous helper, I still don't know who sent it. I have my suspicions. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that someone saw what was happening and took a risk. That's how change happens. One person who refuses to look away. One person who slips truth into someone's bag. One person who says, "You're not alone, even when it feels like you are." I've started mentoring younger women in my industry now. Informally, over coffee. They tell me their stories, bad bosses, unfair treatment, being overlooked or undermined, and I listen. I don't tell them what to do, but I tell them what I learned. Document everything. Know your worth. Build your exit before you need it. I tell them that staying isn't always strength. Sometimes leaving is. I tell them that the right way is longer and harder, but it's the only way that lets you sleep at night. One woman asked me, "Did it feel good when he got fired?" I thought about it honestly. "No," I said. "It felt quiet. It felt like the world finally made sense again." That's the truth. Revenge is loud and hot. Justice is quiet and cold. I chose justice, and I'd choose it again. He looked me in the eye and said, "You're done here." Turns out, he was right. I was done. Done shrinking. Done apologizing. Done carrying the weight of someone else's insecurity. I reached for my bag that day, not because I was running, but because I knew something Derek didn't. The bag wasn't empty. It had my evidence, my references, my timeline, my truth. And while Derek thought he was ending my story, he was actually starting it. Because the thing about people like Derek is they think firing you is the ending. But for people like me, it's just the beginning. I walked out of that conference room, and I walked into a life where no one can look me in the eye and tell me I'm done. Not unless I decide I am, and I'm not even close.